Good afternoon, my dear friends, and a hearty welcome for the third lecture on psychology. In the first semester, I am concentrating upon general psychology. A short recap of the last class. In the previous class, we have dealt with the scope of psychology, branches of psychology, the difference between pure psychology and applied psychology. Psychology was divided into two main branches, pure psychology and applied psychology. Pure psychology gives us the theories, the principles, the methods of psychology, and its practical shape is found in applied psychology. That is definition for pure psychology. And applied psychology is putting into practice the principles, the methods, the methodology given by pure psychology. That is what is definition for pure psychology and applied psychology. The very same difference also. One gives the principle, other one applies. That is the main difference between pure psychology and applied psychology. And in the last class, we have dealt with the branches of pure psychology. We have seen some of them in detailed manner. And in this class, I am dealing with the branches of applied psychology, the definition of applied psychology, and what are the branches of applied psychology I am going to deal with. In the very outset of this class, I just want to bring to the notice of the students, the brothers of psychology. I have forwarded a soft copy of pure psychology, and according to that material given to you, the classes that I am dealing with, that material is not found there. And in a short period of time, I will be able to supply the material on the lectures that we deal with these three lectures. The soft copy of these three lectures, I will send it in a short period of time. Don't get confused for not finding this material in the given material already. Already some material is forwarded to you. There you may not find this material. For this reason, don't get confused. That will be a continuation of these lectures. And for these lectures, I will be supplying, I will be forwarding, I will be sending a soft copy of that within a couple of days or maximum 3 days. Please take note of this point, my dear brothers. And now, we are here to deal with, in this lecture, we deal with the branches of applied psychology. Previous class, we dealt with the branches of pure psychology. Now here, we deal with the branches of applied psychology. Again, I make clarification of one expression. In some books, we find fields of psychology. In other books, we may find the expression, the branches of psychology. Don't get confused there. Maybe fields and branches to be different. Don't take that way. Don't be confused. Again, I repeat, the term fields and the term branches, they are used interchangeably. They mean one and same. There is no difference between them. And as for now, we deal with the branches of applied psychology. Before ever we go to deal with the branches of pure applied psychology, we need to go through the definition of applied psychology. Here we see some of the branches of psychology. There are very many branches of psychology, like clinical psychology, counseling psychology, evolutionary psychology, industrial psychology, organizational psychology, legal psychology, school psychology, community psychology, neuropsychology, occupational psychology, health psychology, forensic psychology, engineering psychology, sports psychology, and medical psychology. These are some of the branches of applied psychology. Though we have many, for our concern, also especially our concern with regard to the syllabus, some of the branches are mentioned here. It is enough that we deal with these given points here about the applied psychology as for our consideration, keeping in mind about the syllabus. These are the branches of psychology which find more importance as for our syllabus. And the important branches of applied psychology as given here are: one is educational psychology, other one clinical psychology, counseling psychology, industrial and organizational psychology, sports psychology, legal psychology, and military psychology. These are some of the branches of applied psychology which find importance as for our syllabus and portion. Now, we see here the definition of applied psychology. The definition of applied psychology is: it is the use of psychological methods and findings of scientific psychology to solve practical problems of human and animal behavior and experiences. It deals with applications of theories, principles generated by pure psychology to the life in general. There are some areas which are influenced by the application of psychological principles and findings. Some of those areas are mental health, organization of psychology, business management, education, health, and product design. These are the some of areas which are influenced by the application of psychological principles, theories, methods, applications, and operations of psychology. In other words, applied psychology is a systematic application of the use of psychological principles, theories, methods to the life in general. Now, we see here the first branch of applied psychology, that is called educational psychology. What is educational psychology? Definition: what is its main concern and what is the role of educational psychology? Educational psychology tries to apply psychological principles, theories, and techniques to the human behavior in the educational situations. How the behavior of an individual is in the situation of educational situations. In the background of education, how the behavior of an individual will be, that is studied here. It deals with psychological ways and means of improving all aspects of learning, teaching, and the processes. And these learning and teaching processes include the learner, the teacher, the learning process, the learning material, and the learning environment. The goal of educational psychology is to make any teacher-student relationship as positive as it can be. As a result of that, the students can learn as best according to their potentials. I will try to simplify it. According to educational psychology, the main concern is to improve the learning abilities, the teaching abilities. That is the main concern of educational psychology. We see these days education has become a very complex. Various institutes are there. Government educational institutes are there, private educational institutions are there, corporate educational institutions are there. They are competing to excel in the given situations. As a result of that, a lot of pressure is upon both the teachers as well as the students. Here, educational psychology studies about different processes that are applied both for teaching and for learning. We see in the classroom there are different students. There are many students with different capabilities. Some are fast learners. For them, once or twice they read the material, they understand, they grasp major part of the material. Some classroom learners, as the lecturing is taking place, the students concentrate on the lecturing and they grasp. They are also fast learners. There are some average learners. Their learning capabilities are average. They are not in the fast learners list. There is another group of learners below the average. Their capacity is below the average. And still yet another group is there, another group of students are there, and that group is slow learners. Now, as there is basing on this, we can say that there is no single approach, there is no single method which we can apply to all the students. In this regard, here comes the role of educational psychology. It deals with the students' capabilities and to enable the students of different capacities. Teacher-student relationship is to be counseled, is to be treated by the counselors. The change of instructional process must take place. The new learning methods can be applied. As a result of that, all the students can learn. A single method we cannot employ for all the students having different capabilities. The single method we cannot apply. There will be some weaker ones, some below average, some average ones. Here, counseling, educational psychology suggests to pay special attention to this kind of weaker students, how to boost their psychological energy, how to boost their confidence level, how to help them to improve their learning skills. That is for the students' side. And on the other side, enabling the teachers to have the different approaches in teaching. As a result of that, all the students will be able to grasp. This is the main concern of educational psychology. Coming to the next one, clinical psychology. The very term clinical psychology means some treatment is involved. Especially the definition of clinical psychology. Clinical psychology describes and explains the causes for mental illness, abnormal behavior of the patients attending to the clinic or hospitals. It suggests group therapy and individual therapy for treatment and effective adjustment of the affected person in the society. I try to simplify. It is an integration. Clinical psychology deals with, it is a study of an integration of science, theory and clinical knowledge for the purpose of understanding, preventing and relieving psychologically based diseases, dysfunction, and to promote subjective well-being and personal development. In the present day society, there is a lot of competition in the world, cutthroat competition, which leads to pressure, and I try to simplify what clinical psychology is speaking about. Clinical psychology describes and explains what are the causes for abnormal behavior, for the mental illness of the clients who go to the clinic and who go to the attending to consulting a doctor in the hospitals. What are the causes for mental illness? As we saw in the previous class, abnormal behavior for all the abnormal people will not be the same. The cause is not one and same. In their given situation, in their own life situations, in their own social background, in their own life situational crisis, they vary from one person to another person. One and same cause is not there. Clinical psychology presents that. And the psychologists, clinical psychologists, when the clients come to them, they first give an interpretation and they explain what is the disorder, what is the health problem, and they give interpretation of the problem the client is suffering from. Later on, they diagnose it. Behavior of the colleagues may not be the same. As we see, as we are going through, clinical psychology explains what is the cause for illness, mental illness, psychological disorders. Every person has got his own background. In their own given situations, they become abnormal in their behavior. Therefore, the cause for abnormality for many people or for all the people will not be one and the same. That differs from person to person. Let me present it in a simplified manner. In the present day society, we see there is a severe competition. Competition in all the fields of life, in all the areas of life. There is cutthroat competition like. And this competition leads the individual to stress and pressure. And there are some symptoms to identify whether when a person is under stress or under pressure. To find it out, there will be some symptoms. Some of the symptoms are disinterest in the life activities, sad and gloomy, poor appetite, no energy, no enthusiasm. These are some of the symptoms of pressure and stress. Usually, these kind of symptoms are seen in everybody. In everybody who is leading even an ordinary life, these symptoms are seen. But how to find out a person is suffering from mental disorder or not? These problems are common to everybody. The duration that matters a lot. For a common person who enjoys a common health, a good health, though these problems are there, this presence of this problem will be for a short period of time, maybe for a couple of days or a little more. But for a person who is suffering from mental disorder because of these symptoms, the duration of suffering will be longer than limited days for normal behavior people. Basing on the duration, we can identify, we can categorize what a person is suffering, whether that's suffering, the person who is suffering from this is having a normal behavior or an abnormal behavior. We identify basing on the duration of the suffering. Suffering for a short period, normal behavior because it is common to all. Suffering for a long period, an extended period, suffering for that person is said to have the disorder, mental disorder, and he is suffering from that. And as the result of that, he will be having an abnormal behavior. The role of clinical psychology is to deal with severe mental disorders, to promote subjective well-being and personal development by treating them according to their illness. The main role and the aim of clinical psychology is it deals with severe mental disorders, and the aim is to promote subjective well-being and the development of the personality by treating their illness. And clinical psychologists do this. They administer and interpret certain psychological tests initially, the first step. Second step, they do diagnose they conduct a diagnosis to find out whether the client is having existing or potential disorder. A patient had it or not. And the third one is treatment plan for the patient. After diagnosing the problem, the clinical psychologist plans out the treatment plan for the client. That is the only planning. And the fourth step is conducting psychotherapy. Here comes the role of psychotherapy to deal with the abnormal people, those who are suffering from mental disorders for a long time. Psychotherapy is of great help for the people, especially suffering from mental disorders, to make them normal. Psychotherapy plays a great role. There is a therapeutic approach in this branch of psychology. And in this branch of psychology, as we see, therapeutic approach is there, psychotherapy is there. By applying psychotherapy to make the person normal, we can make them normal. But only thing, it takes long period of time to heal the client. Now we go to the next point, counseling psychology, one of the branches of applied psychology. It covers with fewer serious psychological problems. It focuses on emotional, social, physical issues that arise from typical life stressors. What is counseling? In simple terms, it is also called talk therapy. It takes less time to solve the problem. It deals with the peripheral, the surface level of the problem. Counseling is a process of assisting and guiding the client by trained persons, counselors, to resolve personal, social, and physical problems. I simplify it and tell. Counseling psychologist says that a person having social, personal problems, when they consult a counselor, the counselor's duty is to accompany him, to guide him in the thought pattern, in his thinking level, to solve the problem. This accompaniment is a must by the counselor with the client. Now, we see, I give an example. A man is working in a company, is doing well, getting promotions and getting high salary and all. All of a sudden, for reasons unknown, he is removed from the office. He is removed from the job. Now he is jobless for some time. He goes to another organization searching for a job. Now he is not accepted there in the second organization where he goes for job. And even after receiving into the organization, the behavior of the colleagues are not appropriate with him. New people, again to rise up to the demand of meeting with new people, that is another challenge. Yet another challenge is inability to handle the pressure of the job. He is not able to adjust. He is not able to rise up to the pressure he faces in the job. An adjustment problem to the demands of the situation. These are some of the problems which push an individual into great stress, great pressure. In this situation comes the role of counseling psychology. Here, counseling psychology deals with adjustment problems, personal problems, career problems, and marital problems. These are some of the areas with which counseling psychology deals with. These areas, when there is pressure and stress an individual undergoes, there comes the role of counseling. Counselors deal with mild psychological problems, and they help the individual by traveling with them to make them very normal, very good in health psychologically. The counselors will accompany the people who are suffering from different problems, especially in the areas of adjustment, personal problems, career related problems, marital problems. Here you see here a side heading, counselors and counseling versus psychotherapy. I just want to make mention of the slightest difference between counseling and psychotherapy. Counseling is nothing but a talk therapy. It deals with the periphery, it deals with the surface level of the problem of the individual, and it takes less time to solve the problem. Coming to the psychotherapy, it deals with the underlying factors for the problem of an individual. It gives a complete healing to the individual, to the person who is suffering, and it aims at the wholeness of the health of the individual, the person suffering, and it takes a very long time. That is the difference between counseling and psychotherapy. Here we see yet another branch of applied psychology, that is industrial organizational psychology. The definition we go through now. Industrial organizational psychology applies psychological principles, themes, and techniques for the study of human behavior in relation to industrial environment. In other words, it is characterized by the scientific study of human behavior in the organization and at the workplace. It uses psychological principles, research methods to solve the problems in the workplace and to improve the quality of life. The goal is establishing harmony and a harmonious relationship with the employee and the employer and strengthening the morale of the workers. I simplify it. In the organization, industrial organizational psychology, it deals with the relationship between the employee and the employer, and it speaks about the problems of employer and the problems of employee and how they can rectify the problem to have a fine relationship between them, to have the quality of life, a happy life, and to have the expected result to get it. Now, I just give an example about human beings who are working in the industries, who are working in the organizations. They are human beings, not machines. They have emotions, thoughts, and feelings, and they have some needs to be met. When working in an organization or working in an industry, all these come in. We see sometimes the people who are working in the industry, who are working in an organization, look to be their working environment looks to be dull. Nature of the job seems to be very monotonous. Working in an insecure environment, no cordial relationship with the manager, not happy with the promotional policies of the organization. All these are some of the problems that we see in industrial and organizational psychology. Here comes the role of psychology. Before that, let me give you an example, practical example that we see in day-to-day life. Very often there are number of strikes, number of dharnas, number of bandhs conducted by different groups of people who are working in different fields, different industries, different organizations. Why they conduct all that? Because they do not get the due salaries, the due payment, their demands are not met, their considerations are not taken into consideration by the management and all. They are not happy with the management. As a result of that, to put forward their petitions, their request, they conduct all these dharnas. As a result of that, hopefully their demands may be met. That is their main intention. This is what we see in day-to-day life very many times. Why this happens? Why? Because there is no cordial relationship between the workers, between the job holders, and between the manager, employee and employer. There is no cordial relationship. In this context, in this situation comes the role of industrial and organizational psychology. The main aim of industrial organizational psychology is to maintain the peace and harmony in the organization. The goal is establishing harmonious relationship with the employee and the employer, and strengthening the morals of the workers. It suggests the managers of the organizations, of the industries, to make the formulations of effective policies for the betterment of the employees. And they have to make sure, they have to make mention and make sure of the rewards and incentives to the management, job rotation and flexible work hours technique. This also would help the workers to feel comfortable with. And as the result of all these changes in the policies, the workers feel that they are understood, their feelings are understood, they are taken care of, they are cared for. As a result of that, there will be a cordial relationship, there will be a healthy relationship between the manager and the working staff, between the employee and between the employer. As a result of that, they will be developing, they will be flourishing. Another branch of applied psychology is sports psychology. Sports psychology is a very interesting subject, interesting point. Sports psychology studies how the psychology influences sports and athletic performance, exercise and physical activity. It also focuses on preparing the mind to overcome the obstacles on the field. Players and sportsmen have, as you see, every sportsman one day or the other will face a hard time. Every sportsman will face some hard time in his career, bad times, severe problems they face with regard to their career, their performance. As a result of that, they will be under stress. They are not able to play as for their competitive need in a simple manner. There is always a competition between the players, and for every individual has to perform the best way possible. Usually everybody will have some days of little darkness, little weakness, and especially these days when they are not able to cope up with the demands of the competition, they will be suppressed. They will be undergoing some pressure, some stress and all. And in these kind of situations, how the role of sports psychology come about in this situation, in this background, and the role and aim of psychology sports psychology is to deal with the coaches and also to deal with athletes, the players. In dealing with coaches, the psychologists propose the coaches to increase the motivation. The manner of motivating the player has to be changed, and that must be increased. And they need to teach the moral of the sports. They need to remind again and again the moral of the sports to all the sportsmen, to all the athletes. They need to make mention of that. And also to improve the performance, give them some boosting, some encouragement. As a result of what, the players will be improving their performance. And boosting confidence in the players is the role of coaches, which is demanded, which is reminded by the sports psychology. And in dealing with players, it enables the players to handle the pressure before their big game, so that they feel less nervous and less anxious. Sports psychologists, when they deal with players, they boost up them, they encourage them, they give them a lot of positive energy. As a result of that, the players, before performing a big performance, they will be less anxious, less nervous. I remember some time back what I heard about one of the great players of cricket, Sachin Tendulkar. In a particular year in the World Cup cricket match, when they reached final match, that overnight Sachin could not spend time he could not sleep proper. He was anxious, he is nervous. Such kind of situations can come to any individual. It is the role of the coach to encourage them, to make them to help the individuals, to help the players to reduce their tension, their fear, and as a result of that, their nervousness, their anxiousness will be lesser, and they will be able to perform well. Yes, here are we with another branch of applied psychology, and the name of that branch is legal psychology. What is legal psychology? It is this branch of applied psychology which tries to study the behavior of the persons like clients, criminals, witnesses in their respective surroundings with the help of application of psychological principles and techniques. It contains subject matter of improving the ways and means of detection of crimes, false witnesses, and other competitive phenomena. The root causes of crime, offense, dispute, or any legal case can be properly understood through the use of this branch of psychology, and subsequently proper reformatory and rehabilitation measures may be employed. Legal psychology, it employs the principles, the theories, the methods, the methodology given by pure psychology in order to understand the situations, in order to guess the mind of the criminals, the mind of the clients, the mind of the people. All the more in order to find out whether the witness bearing, whether it is right witness or wrong witness, false witness or true witness, to find out all that and to find out the real client, some psychological tips, some psychological principles, methodology and methods are given in order to understand and in order to find out who is the real culprit, who is the real client. And the next one we see military psychology. Another branch of applied psychology is military psychology. This branch of psychology is concerned with the use of psychological principles and techniques in the world of military science. How to keep morale of the soldiers, citizens of high during war, how to fight war of propaganda, intelligence services, and how to secure better recruitment of the personnel for the armed forces, and how to improve fighting capacities and organizational climate and leadership, etc. These are some of the various topics that are dealt in this branch of psychology. we see the title here, the side heading here, various topics. What are those various topics that are dealt in this military psychology are the methods of recruitment, the technology of recruitment, the fighting skills, the fighting capacities, how to improve fighting capacities, and how to recruit the personnel for armed forces. These are the some of the topics that are dealt with in the branch of applied psychology, which is called military psychology. My dear students, again I make mention of one point. What is that? The material of these 3 lectures is not found in the material that is forwarded to you. Don't get confused for not finding it there. Something is there in the given material, this is not found. Don't get confused. I will make arrangements that these 3 lectures soft copy will be forwarded to you in a short period of time. Take note of this. Don't be confused. May God bless you. Do well.